OpenAI, Google, and Tesla are fighting to build the most powerful intelligence in human history.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving right into the absolute cutting edge of the 2026 AI landscape. We're going to journey from the hyper-specific, massively anticipated launch of OpenAI's GPT 5.5 all the way out to the massive global, environmental, and frankly existential impacts this technology is having on us right now. It is a lot to cover, so let's get into it.
So to really grasp where we are right now in 2026, we've got to ask a crucial question. What actually happens when AI stops just typing the code and starts running the entire project? Because the conversational era, the era of just chatting back and forth with a bot, that is effectively dead. We have officially crossed over into the autonomous, agentic era. We are no longer just asking AI to help us execute a few tasks, we are asking it to orchestrate the whole shebang.
And the catalyst for this massive shift? Well, it just dropped. Meet OpenAI's latest flagship model, GPT 5.5, internally codenamed SPUD. And listen, this isn't just some minor incremental tune-up. This is the first fully retrained base model we've seen since GPT 4.5. It features a native omnimodal architecture that was rebuilt from the ground up to independently execute multi-day coding and research projects. And the best part? It doesn't need you to hold its hand anymore.
But that leap in capability? Yeah, it came with a pretty immediate financial shock. The new AIP pricing is set at $5 per million input tokens and $30 per million output tokens. For anyone actually paying the API bill right now, this number caused a literal, collective gasp across the entire developer industry. Because on paper, your bill basically just doubled compared to the old GPT 5.4 pricing of $2.50 and $15. But here is the really crucial point. OpenAI argues, and real-world workloads are absolutely confirming this, that GPT 5.5 requires significantly fewer tokens to actually finish a task. Because its planning is so much tighter and it requires way fewer retries, the effective cost for complex, multi-step agentic work actually remains roughly flat.
So, why on earth are developers willing to stomach that upfront cost? Well, 82.7%. That is GPT 5.5's massive score on Terminal Bench 2.0. And just for context, this isn't a test of writing a nice poem. This is a brutal test of real command line workflows that require serious planning and tool use. In this space, anything below 80% is generally considered completely unreliable for unattended use. GPT 5.5 just crossed that line. It proves the model is now highly capable of operating real computer interfaces completely unattended. Okay. Let's zoom out for a second to the macro level. The arrival of GPT 5.5 has completely intensified the battlefield. We are watching the big three, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, clash head-on to dominate this new agent-driven landscape. And it's a race not just for bragging rights on benchmarks, but for developer devotion and deep enterprise trust. When you put GPT 5.5 head-to-head against Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro, the picture gets pretty stark. On Terminal Bench 2.0, GPT 5.5's 82.7% is heavily outperforming Gemini's 68.5%. And on ARC AGI 2, which is a really tough test for abstract visual reasoning, GPT 5.5 takes a solid 8-point lead over Gemini's 77.1%. This ground-up rebuild by OpenAI is currently just dominating the highly specific tasks required for autonomous agents.
And that raw performance translates directly into developer momentum. If we look at MindStudio's 2026 tracking, we see a really fascinating tension. OpenAI scores a perfect 10 out of 10 for momentum, and Anthropic is sitting comfortably at a strong 8. But Google is down at a 3. What's wild here is that Google has this massive structural and compute advantage. I mean, they literally own the TPUs and the data centers. Yet because coding-centric agentic work is what's driving this current era, Google is severely struggling to capture the developer narrative.
But hey, it is not a complete sweep for OpenAI. We have to contrast that objective capability against actual human preference and trust. While GPT 5.5 clearly leads in raw autonomous execution, it actually hallucinates more. Tests show it confidently lies about completing impossible tasks more frequently than its predecessor did.
Because of this, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7 remains the preferred choice in blind, head-to-head human evaluations when it comes to reliable, nuanced work with much lower hallucination rates.
Which brings us right to the practical playbook for any business trying to survive and build in 2026. The single model strategy is dead. I'll say it again, it's dead. If you are locked into just one provider right now, you are incredibly vulnerable to price hikes and performance gaps. We are officially living in a multi-model reality.
So here's the actionable playbook. You absolutely need a multi-model router setup. Think of it like a triage system. Send your heavy-lifting agentic coding and computer use tasks straight to GPT 5.5. For tone-sensitive writing or, say, ambiguous customer replies, pivot over to Claude Opus 4.7. And when you're staring down massive contract analysis, you leverage Gemini 3.1 Pro's absolute beast of a 1 million token context window at what is a highly competitive price. You simply use the right tool for the exact right job.
And listen, you've got to adapt to this strategy incredibly fast, because the industry has shifted into this wild, dizzying 6-week release cadence. Just look at the timeline. We saw GPT 5.2 in December of 2025, then 5.4 in March of 2026, and bam, 5.5 hits in April. The big takeaway here? Stop waiting for the next big model before you start building. Build your routing infrastructure today and just swap these models in and out as routine maintenance.
All right, let's pivot for a minute. Let's shift our focus entirely away from the digital realm and look at the physical world. Because this blinding speed of innovation, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There is a massive physical toll, a literally incredible amount of physical infrastructure required to power this agentic AI revolution. 54%. Just wrap your head around that. Between 2019 and 2024, that is how much Google's total greenhouse gas emissions skyrocketed. And they are definitely not alone here. Microsoft's emissions are up 23%, and Meta's are up over 60%. This massive spike is being driven directly by the electricity demands of these new AI data centers.
So the really crucial point here is how this impacts our global climate trajectory. We're seeing a literal head-on collision between the tech giants' ambitious 2030 net zero climate pledges and, well, reality. It's just a fact that clean energy sources like geothermal and nuclear are currently facing serious scaling problems. So the staggering energy demands of agentic AI have actually forced these companies to temporarily sideline those clean energy goals. We're seeing major players like Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon pivoting to construct natural gas power plants just so they can get immediate fossil fuel power to their data centers.
Drawing on some really profound insights from the book The Silicon Mind, we have to look out at the horizon. We need to explore the existential stakes of this AI race. Because we are no longer just building cool software, we are quite literally building the infrastructure for civilization itself.
There's this quote from The Silicon Mind that just hits the nail right on the head. The bottleneck was never typing the code, it was knowing what to build. This brilliantly illustrates how agentic models like GPT 5.5 are fundamentally altering human labor. AI is effectively replacing the physical execution of tasks. In this new era, the value of human labor is shifting entirely toward high-level orchestration, strategy, and vision.
But as we hand over all this orchestration to machines, we run headfirst into the alignment problem. Essentially, how do we ensure these advanced, potentially superintelligent systems actually pursue goals that are compatible with human values? The mystery of emergent behaviors is seriously growing. As these models get larger, they're developing skills they were never explicitly programmed to have. We are building increasingly intelligent black box systems without fully understanding how the intelligence inside them actually works. At the end of the day, artificial intelligence is accelerating at just a blinding speed. It's rewriting economics, it's straining our physical power grids, and honestly, it's challenging our very understanding of intelligence itself. But we have to remember, AI is ultimately just a tool. The most important variable in this entire equation isn't the machine, it's us. So what kind of future will humans choose to build with it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you navigate the incredibly fast-moving world of 2026. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.